Welcome back, Warrior. Can we just take a second and realize that we're about to read Exodus 24, and we have so many other chapters that we need to be reading, and it's Thursday, right? We got to get with the program here. And sadly, I forgot to post up the other videos that I had available to post up, and it just was not happening for today. So, or for before. So yeah, so we're reading Exodus chapter 24, and the heading is Israel accepts the word of the Lord by covenant. Moses sprinkles the blood of the covenant. He, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel see God. The Lord calls Moses on the mount to receive the tablets of stone and commandments. Okay, here we are. And he said unto Moses, Come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which the Lord hath said, we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. It's always like such a challenge to walk on an incline with weights, but it's what keeps us healthy, so we do it. I had a personal trainer who said that if I am exercising and I can talk through my exercise, I'm not trying hard enough. And I'm like, oh, suck. And I'm the one who wants to talk and walk with weights and hike at the same time. But I must talk. We're being so productive. Okay. Verse 7. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, All that the Lord hath said, we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. Okay, so sprinkling animal blood on top of me, not cool. I would not appreciate that. But that's how they were doing covenants back then, So glad we're here in these latter days. Okay, so ratifying sacrifice. So Exodus 20 contained the 10 commandments, and then immediately following that, the Lord gave a series of laws, including ritual ordinances and civil law. Okay, so those are the ones we read from chapters 21 to Exodus 23. Israel was now a nation and therefore needed laws. Together, these laws made up the book of the covenant, and today is often referred to as the covenant code. The people then learned all of the words of the Lord, meaning they learned of the 10 commandments and the other laws. After learning of them, the Israelites accepted the laws and said that they would do everything that they were going to do, that they said. Then their covenant was formally ratified by a sacrifice, because a sacrifice would bind the covenant. That's what they did back then. So Moses built an altar. The sacrifice upon the altar signifies Jehovah. And then the 12 pillars were built, and those pillars signified the 12 tribes of Israel. Some scholars suggest that the leaders of each tribe may have built their pillar for their tribe. Oh, that would be cool. They burnt peace offerings of oxen. Then burnt peace offerings of oxen were offered. A good thing to know and remember, as the Israelites practiced sacrifices, is that sacrifices represented covenant making and keeping, which is why Moses was offering sacrifices. Notice what President David O. McKay taught. He said, the divinity within him, I grant you, would be ever urging him to rise above himself, but his reverence for the infinite could express itself only in a worship of the manifestations of divine power, the sun, the moon, the thunder, and the lightning and Sorry, there's no and. Okay, so the lightning, the cataract, the volcano, etc. The Lord, through his loving grace, revealed to man the gospel, and one of the very first commandments given superseded in essence the self-preservation law. It was the law of sacrifice. The effect of this was that the best the earth produced, the best specimen in the flock or herd, should not be used for self, but for God. It was God, not the earth, whom man was to worship. I love that. President David O. McKay, The Atonement Instructor, March 1959. Okay. So it was not natural for man to want to sacrifice the best animal. It makes sense. That went against his natural instinct for self-preservation, since the best animal was the greatest value to him. Therefore, sacrificing the most valuable animal would show man's dependence upon God, and trust the Lord would bless him. It was a true sacrifice. This also pointed man to the great and last sacrifice that would one day come through the only perfect and whole person to ever walk the entire earth, which is Jesus Christ. When Moses offered the sacrifice, he took half of the blood and put it on the altar, and he took the other half of the blood and sprinkled it on the people. This symbolized that both God and the people were bound by a covenant together. Okay. Now, verse 9. Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God, and did eat and drink. And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua and Moses went up into the mount of God. And he said unto the elders, Tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. For any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai. And the cloud covered it 6 days. And the seventh day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Okay, so sometimes I'm walking like this. Remind me to walk like this. Because you don't want to be slouched especially not when you're carrying the weight. Okay. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. Okay. So Joseph Smith translation for Exodus 34, 1 and 2 clarifies that the first set of stone tables included the ordinances of God, holy order, or the Melchizedek priesthood. The second set included the law of a carnal commandment. Okay. So with the covenant made, Moses, Aaron, and his sons, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 elders of Israel went up the mount, and upon that mount they saw the God of Israel. They were on the holy mount. They were in the presence of God, and they saw him. And they described him on the ground he stood upon. Like so many other versions of God, they use words like as it were. When describing the indescribable, men typically have to find something to try to describe what they were seeing. And in this case, the ground upon which God stood was like paved jewels. Isn't that the coolest description though? Then the Lord told Moses that he would give him tables of stone with the law and commandments upon them. These tables were not the tables we typically associate with Moses, which is the lesser law. These tables contain the higher law, and the Israelites would prove to be not prepared for this higher law. Therefore, the second set, lesser law, will be given later, which is a little bit sad, right? Imagine where we would be if he would have started with the higher law tablets and then where we would be spiritually now. While Moses was and that just goes to show us that, like, everyone has different faith journey than others, right? Like each person has a different faith journey. And some people need to start at the basics and go from there. Some people, when they hear the plan of salvation, when they hear like just that families can be together forever, that immediately converts them, instead of starting at like a, do you know God kind of a question, right? And then there's people who read the Book of Mormon just like a few pages in and they want to get baptized. And you're like, I haven't even taught you anything else about the religion. Are you sure you want to get baptized? Right? And they totally want to get baptized. And so everyone is at a different place, and you can't start at the same place for each person. And so I appreciate that, because the Lord will take us where we're at, and the Lord will be mindful of where we're at and adjust accordingly. And he did that for these Israelites. And so makes me sad that they couldn't get the higher law, but at the same time, I'm like, well, everyone's different, right? So while Moses was receiving this law and the Israelites were camped down below, the mount was like devouring fire. God let them see his glory as he gave his law to them. Moses was still upon the mount throughout Exodus 25 to 31. And during this 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord was instructing Moses on the tabernacle that was to be built. In these chapters, Moses learned of the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat, the table of shewbread, the candlestick, the veil, the layout of the tabernacle, the holy place, and the Holy of Holies, the altar for sacrifices, the altar of incense, and the priests who minister in the tabernacle, and what they were to wear. The fascinating symbolism and details of these items will be covered in next week's study pages. Okay, so that'll be awesome. Okay, so that is it for Exodus chapter 24. And what's crazy is the next chapter that we read is chapter 31. So I have to read all of that in between. I'm really hoping each one's like one verse. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, here's the Read It, Live It. I'm going to stop. Here's the Read It, Live It. Okay, can you see it? And the Read It, Live It says, which is so good. These are so good. I really love these. And remember that this company, don't miss this, originally started with David Butler and Emily Bell Freeman. And Emily Bell Freeman right now is our General Young Women's President for all of the young women on earth. Ages 12, turning 11, or 11, turning 11. I mean, just kidding. Turning 11, turning 12 to 18. But honestly, Sister Freeman inspires everyone, doesn't she? Don't you think? Okay, so I would say from young age to 99, or whoever's, the oldest person. Okay, so it says, we're doing it based on chapter 20. It says, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Okay, so I think I read this already during our chapter 20, but since this is the only Read It, Live It that I get for chapter 24, also I'm going to add this here. Okay, so before the Lord gave commandments, he reminded them how much he loved them. He also reminded them what he was able to continue to do for them. Ooh, love that, because there were so many promises, remember? And remember, the challenge is to remember who you are obeying. And also, like, if we need to remember who we are obeying, we need to remember who we are to help us with that. And I think that the best way to remember who we are is to stay connected with Christ at all times, to help us remember that we are capable of so much more than just scrolling. And that is, I'm talking to myself. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. But for me, my experience is sometimes I do get distracted. And so it is something that I need to manage. So anyway, I'm glad that you were here. I'm glad that you're making time to connect with Christ, and that you are helping me to read my scriptures and be consistent. So I'm hoping that that is doing the same thing for you, as we read scriptures together. And by no means do you need to wait for me to finish or start or anything. This is one of those things that you could just like watch when you're on the chapter. And if you're not, then more power to you, because you are ahead of the game. And I am not trying to make you rely solely on our scripture time, because I want you to have your own scripture time with the Lord. Because sometimes I think when we think of scripture time, or when we listen to podcasts about scriptures, and like, it's like I can get insights that are different than the ones from that are shared on podcasts or videos, or from random people, and I almost feel more special when I have read my scriptures first and then go listen to the podcasts and all the other episodes, the extra stuff that's around them, and then find that they have received similar instruction, or maybe even like not as good instruction as I received during my scripture study. And then it like really helps me feel validated, like, holy smokes, I'm actually getting something from scriptures and from reading them, right? And so it's like really like it fills me with confidence in my sister scriptorian duties of learning how to connect with Christ anyway, and learn the scriptures, because I really have the narrative of like not being a scriptorian. But as I've been reading and learning things, I'm like, wow, I really am, because things are coming to my remembrance that I would have not known or remembered on my own. And I'm like, that's the Lord helping me remember those things, to help me teach, to help me learn the things that I am learning, so that it can teach me the lessons that I need to be learning too. So anyway, we're all done here. So good work. And until Exodus chapter 25, stay strong, warrior.